March 13, 1943. 2:17 a.m. North Atlantic Ocean. Black water stretches to the horizon, broken only by white foam slashing against steel hulls. The wind cuts like glass. Somewhere beneath the surface, unseen machinery hums in predatory silence. Inside a German U-boat, the air is thick with diesel fumes and sweat. Condensation drips from pipes overhead. Red lights cast every face in shadow. No one speaks above a whisper. Hydrophone contact, multiple screws, convoy confirmed. The report travels through the cramped control room like an electric current. Boots shift. Hands tighten on valves and levers. Captain's eyes narrow over the chart table. Outside, merchant ships move slowly through the darkness, their silhouettes barely visible against the Black Sea. They are heavy with cargo, fuel, steel, ammunition, food. Lifelines of an island nation fighting for survival. And tonight, they are prey. The order is given quietly. Always quietly. Torpedoes, ready. The U-boat glides forward beneath the waves, calculating speed, angle, distance. Above them, the convoy has no idea death is tracking silently beneath its hulls. Then, fire. A mechanical shudder runs through the submarine as torpedoes streak into the darkness. Seconds stretch. Every man counts silently in his head. 1 heartbeat. 2. 3. Then the ocean erupts. A towering column of water and flame bursts upward as a merchant ship splits open. Another explosion follows. Then another. Steel screams. Burning fuel spreads across the waves like liquid fire. Through the periscope, the captain watches silhouettes break apart against the glow. Ships tilt. Men leap into freezing water. Lifeboats tumble helplessly. The Atlantic has claimed them. Inside the U-boat, tension releases in quiet satisfaction. Another successful attack. Another convoy shattered. Another blow to Allied survival. And across hundreds of miles of ocean, dozens of submarines are doing the same thing. This is the moment Admiral Karl Dönitz believed would decide the war. He had built a strategy around mathematics, pressure, and inevitability. Germany did not need to invade Britain. It needed only to strangle it. Cut the arteries of supply. Sink faster than ships could be built. It was a war of numbers. And in early 1943, the numbers seemed decisive. Convoys were falling faster than escorts could protect them. Merchant sailors dreaded the Atlantic more than enemy bombs. Insurance rates soared. Shipping lanes grew shorter. Every sinking tightened the noose. From headquarters in occupied France, Dönitz studied reports arriving hourly. Tonnage destroyed. Coordinates of attacks. Survivors rescued. Fuel expended. He watched the figures climb. Night after night, German submarines hunted in coordinated wolf packs, surrounding convoys and attacking from multiple directions. The method was brutal, efficient, devastating, and the results were undeniable. But numbers tell two stories, the one you see and the one you don't. Far across the ocean, thousands of miles from the sinking ships and burning seas, another sound filled the air. Not explosions. Hammers. April 2nd, 1943. 9:40 a.m. Richmond, California. The sun rises over a forest of steel cranes. Sparks rain down like orange snowfall. Welders move in rhythm along the spine of a ship still taking shape. The vessel did not exist weeks ago. Today, it has a name, a hull, and workers racing against time itself. You can almost feel the vibration through the ground, the constant thunder of construction. Plates are lowered into place. Rivets are driven. Sections slide together with mechanical precision. Men and women move with rehearsed urgency. Some had never built ships before the war. Farmers, teachers, shopkeepers. Now they work like a single organism. They are not building a single ship. They are building a system. Each Liberty ship follows the same design. Standardized parts. Prefabricated sections. Nothing ornamental. Nothing wasted. Only speed. Steel arrives by train. Sections are assembled separately. Entire portions of hulls are welded together and lifted into place like puzzle pieces. Days matter. Hours matter. Across American shipyards, whistles blow at shift change, but production never stops. Lights burn through the night. Construction continues in rain, wind, and fog. The Atlantic is swallowing ships. So America is replacing them. Back in the North Atlantic, U-boat crews surface after their attack. The ocean is silent again except for debris drifting across the waves. Another convoy crippled. Another success to report. One sailor scans the horizon through binoculars. He expects what usually follows such destruction: emptiness. A gap in the shipping lanes. Fear. Instead, weeks later, convoys return. Different ships. Same routes. Then more ships. Then more. At first, the pattern seems temporary. Reinforcements. Emergency measures. But the flow does not slow. It grows. Within months, something unsettling becomes impossible to ignore. Ships once sunk are replaced before their loss can be felt. U-boat commanders report increasing difficulty finding meaningful impact despite continued success. Sinkings continue. But the enemy does not weaken. It adapts. And somewhere deep within German naval command, a question begins to form. How? By late spring 1943, reports arrive that challenge everything the submarine war was built upon. Convoys appear larger, more frequent, better protected. Losses continue, but Allied shipping capacity does not shrink. The Atlantic is still a battlefield, but it is no longer a graveyard. Inside a submerged U-boat patrolling west of Ireland, a young officer studies shipping silhouettes through a periscope. He whispers the identification of hull types, tonnage estimates, convoy spacing. He pauses. There are more ships than intelligence predicted. He adjusts the lens. More behind them. The officer lowers the scope slowly. This is not reinforcement. This is replacement. In headquarters, tonnage reports are rechecked. Intelligence officers compare production estimates. Analysts revise projections again and again. The conclusion emerges slowly, reluctantly. America is building ships faster than Germany can sink them. The strategy designed to starve an island nation is colliding with industrial power on a scale no naval weapon can easily overcome. But realization is not immediate. Not yet complete. Because on the surface, victories still look like victories. Ships still burn. Convoys still scatter. Men still die in freezing water. The Atlantic still takes its toll. And yet, beneath those visible successes, something fundamental has shifted. The ocean is no longer deciding the outcome alone. Industry is entering the battle. And soon, the men who hunt beneath the waves will begin to understand they are not merely fighting ships. They are fighting time itself. May 24, 1943. 11:10 p.m. Atlantic U-boat Command, Carnival Bunker, occupied France. Concrete walls muffle the outside world. Inside, only the sound of paper, pencils, and quiet calculation remains. Rows of officers stand over large plotting tables marked with convoy routes and attack reports. Numbers dominate everything. Tonnage sunk. Torpedoes fired. Patrol durations. Fuel consumption. Expected Allied reserves. At the center of the room, Admiral Karl Dönitz studies a report without expression. The document details recent successes across the Atlantic. Several convoys struck. Dozens of ships destroyed. Losses inflicted exactly as planned. On paper, the strategy is working. But another report lies beside it, one far less satisfying. Estimated Allied shipbuilding output. He reads it again. Then again. The figures refuse to change. Across the ocean, in the United States, new cargo vessels are being launched at a pace intelligence once considered impossible. Not experimental ships. Not emergency prototypes. Standardized cargo carriers built in sequence, like ammunition. Liberty ships. Dönitz does not react outwardly, but those close to him notice the pause. A long, silent pause. He turns to an operations officer. Confirm the construction interval. The officer hesitates. He already knows the answer. Estimated, under 2 weeks per vessel in some yards, Herr Admiral. The room remains silent. War at sea had always followed a brutal logic. Sink enough tonnage, and the enemy collapses. Supply lines shrink. Armies starve. Industry stalls. Eventually, resistance becomes mathematically impossible. That logic had guided every deployment of Germany's submarine fleet. But mathematics depends on constants. And something is changing the equation. Thousands of miles away, the change is visible and deafening. June 7, 1943. 6:30 a.m. Kaiser Shipyard No. 2, Richmond, California. Morning fog hangs low over the harbor, but the sound of work pierces through it like artillery. Welding torches crackle in long lines along a rising steel hull. Cranes swing enormous prefabricated sections into place with startling speed. Workers move in synchronized rhythm. Teams know exactly where to stand before each piece arrives. There is no hesitation, no redesign, no improvisation. Every step has already been measured. You can almost feel the urgency vibrating through the metal deck plates beneath their boots. This is not craftsmanship. This is production. Entire sections of ship are assembled away from the dock, then transported and fused into place. What once required months of shipbuilding is now compressed into days of assembly. Steel plates still warm from the furnace are welded directly into hull frames. Sparks cascade down the sides of the unfinished vessel like molten rain. A whistle blows. Another segment locks into place. The skeleton of a ship becomes a body before your eyes. Nearby, a launch ceremony is already being prepared, for a vessel that did not exist weeks earlier. Banners hang. A small crowd gathers. Cameras are positioned. The ship slides into the water with a roar of applause and churning foam. Another cargo carrier joins the fleet. Another replacement for one lost in the Atlantic. And even as it touches water, workers return to the empty dock behind it. Construction begins again immediately. Back in the Atlantic, U-boat crews are still hunting. June 14, 1943. 3:05 a.m. Mid-Atlantic convoy route. Inside a submerged submarine, tension coils in silence. The hydrophone operator listens with intense concentration, headphones pressed tight against his ears. Multiple propellers, large formation, range decreasing. The captain peers through the periscope. Shadows move across the moonlit surface. Merchant ships again. Many of them. He calculates angles. Attack vectors. Escape routes. Everything feels familiar. Yet something is different. The convoy is larger than expected, and more heavily escorted. He fires anyway. Torpedoes strike true. A tanker erupts in flame. Another cargo ship lists sharply to one side. Explosions ripple across the formation. But then, escort destroyers respond faster than before. Searchlights sweep the water. Depth charges detonate in relentless patterns. The ocean itself seems to convulse with pressure. The submarine dives deeper, hull creaking under strain. Inside, men grip whatever they can hold. Bolts groan. Instruments shake violently. Dust falls from overhead piping. The attack succeeded. But survival feels less certain than it once did. Hours later, when the U-boat finally escapes and surfaces, radio transmissions confirm the damage inflicted. 2 ships sunk. A tactical victory. But command analysis will soon reveal something unsettling. Those 2 ships will be replaced before the month ends. In Carnival, analysts update projection boards again. Sinkings continue to climb, but Allied shipping capacity does not fall proportionally. The graph refuses to bend downward. Instead, it plateaus, then begins to rise. A staff officer presents revised figures to Dönitz. He explains carefully, methodically, as if precision might soften the conclusion. Current rate of enemy construction exceeds estimated destruction over extended interval. Dönitz listens without interruption. War had always been a race between destruction and creation. For years, submarines had dominated that race. Now, for the first time, creation is pulling ahead. The admiral studies a map of the Atlantic. Patrol zones marked in pencil. Convoy routes traced in careful lines. Each mark represents risk. Each line represents survival. But somewhere beyond those lines lies something no torpedo can reach. Factories, shipyards, supply chains stretching across an entire continent. An industrial engine untouched by the Atlantic storms. Later that night, a new directive circulates among U-boat commanders. Patrol intensity will increase. Wolfpack coordination will tighten. Targets must be engaged with greater efficiency. If numbers decide victory, then numbers must be forced back into balance. But at sea, balance is already shifting. Merchant sailors notice convoys growing more frequent. Escort crews observe improved coordination. Air patrols appear farther from land than before. Even the ocean seems more crowded. Inside one submarine, a navigator studies shipping patterns recorded over months of patrols. He traces routes with a finger, comparing past gaps with current density. He stops. There are no gaps anymore. Where losses once created silence in the shipping lanes, movement now returns almost immediately. It is as if the Atlantic itself refuses to remain empty. Weeks later, new intelligence reaches German command. A single American yard has launched a fully assembled cargo vessel in a matter of days. Days. The report sounds exaggerated. Propaganda. Perhaps. Misinterpretation. Statistical anomaly. But more confirmations follow. Ship after ship enters service at astonishing speed. The arithmetic of war, the foundation of the submarine strategy, is beginning to fracture. Because the Atlantic can sink steel, but it cannot sink production. And soon, the men who command Germany's submarine fleet will confront a truth more dangerous than any destroyer. They are no longer reducing Allied strength. They are measuring their own limits. November 8, 1943. 1:12 p.m. Richmond Shipyard No. 2, California. A stopwatch clicks. A crowd stands pressed against the railing overlooking a half-finished cargo ship. Reporters clutch notebooks. Workers line the hull, faces streaked with soot and sweat. Overhead, cranes hover like patient giants. The steel skeleton before them began as separate sections scattered across the yard only days earlier. Now it is a ship. Welders ignite their torches in unison. White sparks cascade downward in shimmering arcs. Plates fuse. Seams vanish. Structure becomes unity. You can almost hear the clock ticking beneath the roar of machinery. The ship's name is Robert E. Peary. And it is about to become something more than a vessel. It is about to become a message. The yard manager, industrialist Henry J. Kaiser, watches quietly from the platform. He is not a naval officer, not an engineer by training, but he understands scale, repetition, and speed better than most generals understand strategy. He does not see a ship. He sees a process refined to its absolute limit. Prefabrication has replaced traditional craftsmanship. Hull sections are built simultaneously instead of sequentially. Workers specialize in narrow tasks performed thousands of times. Delays are hunted, studied, eliminated. Every inefficiency is treated as an enemy. And today, the system reaches its most dramatic demonstration. At 1:30 p.m., final welds are sealed. Paint is applied with astonishing haste. Equipment is installed. Inspection teams move across decks with rehearsed precision. 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes after construction began. The vessel is ready. The crowd erupts as the ship slides down the launchway into the water, sending waves crashing against the dock. It floats. Complete. Functional. Operational. A cargo carrier assembled in less time than many naval engagements last. Photographers capture the moment. Headlines will travel across the ocean. Intelligence agencies will analyze the implications. Workers will return to their stations before applause fades. Because the demonstration is not the goal. Replication is. Across American shipyards, the lesson spreads instantly. Speed is not exceptional, it is repeatable. Back in the Atlantic, German submarines continue their patrols, unaware that the war's tempo has changed permanently. December 3, 1943. 4:50 a.m. North Atlantic Patrol Sector. Inside a U-boat navigating rough seas, the captain reviews recent reports from command. Sinkings remain consistent. Operations continue successfully. Yet each report now carries an unspoken question. If victories persist, why does nothing weaken? The submarine surfaces briefly under cover of darkness. The crew breathes cold air, scanning the horizon. A radio message arrives encrypted and precise. Updated shipping estimates. Increased convoy frequency. New ship types entering service. The captain reads silently. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. The ocean remains the same. The enemy does not. Weeks later, German naval intelligence compiles reconnaissance photography of Allied ports. Analysts enlarge grainy images, searching for clues. They find them. Rows of identical cargo vessels. Newly launched hulls awaiting assignment. Shipyards crowded with incomplete structures already nearing completion. Ships under construction. Ships being launched. Ships already departing. The pattern is continuous. Production has become a conveyor belt feeding directly into the Atlantic. For submarine crews, the psychological shift is subtle at first. Victories feel smaller. Impact feels temporary. Where once a successful attack created absence, now it creates only delay. The Atlantic swallows ships, and the world replaces them. Inside command headquarters, operational maps no longer show shrinking Allied capacity. Instead, they reveal something more troubling. A stable flow of shipping, despite constant losses. War at sea was supposed to be a battle of attrition. But attrition requires depletion. And depletion is no longer occurring. By early 1944, convoy sizes increase again. Escort coverage expands. Long-range aircraft patrol deeper into former hunting grounds. Submarines spend more time evading than attacking. The environment itself feels altered. It is not merely that the enemy replaces ships quickly. It is that the enemy expects losses and has already accounted for them. Every torpedo strike has been anticipated in a ledger somewhere beyond the horizon. Every sinking already balanced by a launch ceremony weeks earlier. For the first time, U-boat commanders begin to experience something unfamiliar. Irrelevance. Not immediate defeat. Not operational failure. But the creeping sense that success no longer changes the outcome. And in Carnival, strategic analysis reaches a conclusion impossible to ignore. The submarine campaign is no longer determining Allied survival. It is measuring Allied resilience. Yet the full realization, the moment when strategy confronts inevitability, has not fully arrived. Because numbers alone do not end belief. But they are about to confront it. And when that confrontation comes, it will not occur at sea. It will occur on paper. February 18, 1944. 8:05 p.m. Atlantic U-Boat Command Operations Room. A single desk lamp illuminates a stack of compiled reports. The room is quieter than usual. No hurried footsteps. No whispered urgency. Only the slow turning of pages. The war has been reduced to columns of figures. Ships sunk this quarter. Enemy construction this quarter. Projected losses. Projected replacement. An analyst finishes recalculating for the third time. He checks each figure carefully, as if arithmetic itself might change under pressure. It does not. He places the summary sheet on the table. Silence stretches. The conclusion is simple. Brutal. Unavoidable. Enemy shipbuilding exceeds total tonnage destroyed. Consistently, predictably, irreversibly. The Atlantic is no longer removing Allied strength faster than it is being restored. It is merely absorbing overflow. Outside, winter wind presses against the reinforced bunker. Inside, the strategic foundation of a naval campaign quietly fractures. For years, the submarine war had been built on inevitability. Every torpedo strike was a subtraction. Every convoy loss was a step toward collapse. But subtraction only matters when the total shrinks. Now, it does not. The figures reveal something far more dangerous than defeat at sea. They reveal immunity to defeat. Far out in the Atlantic, submarine crews continue their patrols unaware that the decisive battle is no longer taking place in the water around them. March 2nd, 1944. 1:22 a.m. Western approaches patrol zone. A U-boat glides silently at periscope depth. The sea is calm tonight, almost unnervingly so. Through the narrow lens, the captain observes another convoy pushing steadily eastward. He studies the silhouettes carefully. Tankers, cargo carriers, escorts positioned with calculated spacing. Aircraft engine noise faint in the distance. Everything appears orderly, disciplined, prepared. He orders an attack. Torpedoes streak forward. One strikes true. A column of flame erupts into the night sky. The convoy scatters briefly before reforming with practiced efficiency. The submarine dives. Depth charges follow. The ocean detonates around them in violent pulses of pressure. Hours later, the U-boat escapes once more. A victory, but not a disruption. Not a turning point. Only an entry in a report. When the patrol ends weeks later, the captain reviews Allied shipping movements recorded during the mission. He compares them with charts from the previous year. He notices something that statistics alone cannot fully express. The Atlantic is busier now than when the campaign began. More ships cross it. More escorts protect them. More aircraft patrol overhead. Losses occur, but movement never stops. It is as if the ocean itself has lost the power to deny passage. Back in command headquarters, strategic planners attempt adjustments. Expanded patrol zones. Increased wolfpack concentration. Modified attack timing. Each proposal assumes the same premise. That pressure can still overwhelm capacity. But pressure requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is vanishing. By mid-1944, reports arrive from multiple sectors confirming identical patterns. Sinkings continue to occur, but their strategic impact diminishes steadily. Convoys grow more confident. Escort tactics become more aggressive. The submarine, once a hunter shaping the battlefield, is becoming a survivor navigating it. War has shifted from attrition to endurance. And endurance favors the side that can replace loss without hesitation. One evening, an operations officer quietly compares two graphs placed side by side. The first shows cumulative tonnage sunk by submarines, a steep, proud ascent. The second shows cumulative Allied ship production, rising even faster. The lines diverge like paths no longer intersecting. The implication is unmistakable. The campaign is no longer a contest. It is a race already decided by forces beyond the reach of torpedoes. Yet belief does not vanish instantly. Commanders continue to search for a decisive adjustment, a new tactic capable of restoring imbalance. But the battlefield has expanded beyond weapons. It now includes factories, railways, labor forces, and production schedules stretching across an entire continent. The submarine cannot strike those targets. It can only confront their consequences. And somewhere between statistics and reality, a deeper understanding begins to emerge. The war in the Atlantic was never solely about ships. It was about whether destruction could outpace creation. The answer is now written clearly across every report. It cannot. But acceptance of that truth, the moment when strategy yields to inevitability, has not yet fully arrived. Because numbers inform commanders. But experience convinces them. And soon, experience will make the conclusion undeniable. September 9th, 1944. 5:42 a.m. North Atlantic, west of Ireland. Dawn arrives slowly, a pale grey line pushing against the horizon. The sea is calm, deceptively calm. A surfaced U-boat rides low in the water, its hull scarred by months of pressure and salt. Crew members scan the horizon through binoculars. A convoy has passed during the night. The attack window is gone. They watch the empty sea. But it is not truly empty. Hours earlier, torpedoes struck two cargo vessels. Flames rose. Radio messages confirmed sinkings. Another success recorded. Another victory to report. Yet the ocean shows no sign that anything significant has occurred. Shipping lanes remain active. Escort patrols continue without pause. Aircraft circle overhead as if nothing has changed. The captain lowers his binoculars slowly. There was a time when a successful attack altered the rhythm of the Atlantic. Gaps appeared in convoy schedules. Routes shifted. Movement slowed. Now, traffic resumes almost immediately. Loss has become routine. Below deck, the radio operator copies new transmissions from command. Updated intelligence. Revised projections. Continued directives for aggressive engagement. He hesitates before handing the message forward. Not because of what it says. Because of what it does not promise. No mention of strategic turning points. No indication of cumulative impact. No expectation of collapse. Only continuation. Later that week, the submarine shadows another convoy from a distance. Through the periscope, the captain counts hulls carefully. Tankers, transports, supply carriers, escorts positioned in tight formation. He remembers earlier patrols when convoys appeared vulnerable, strained, thinly protected. This formation looks different. It looks confident. He considers an attack, then decides against it. Air patrol coverage is too heavy. Risk outweighs effect. The submarine slips away unseen. A hunter choosing survival over engagement. That choice, once rare, is becoming common. Back in Europe, Naval Command receives patrol summaries from across the Atlantic. Patterns emerge with unmistakable clarity. Submarines are spending more time evading than attacking. Successful strikes produce diminishing strategic results. Replacement shipping arrives before losses accumulate. For years, the submarine arm had been described as a decisive weapon, a force capable of determining national survival through pressure alone. Now it functions as something else entirely. A harassing force. A persistent threat. But no longer a decisive one. Inside the operations bunker, analysts prepare one more comprehensive evaluation of the campaign's progress. They gather years of data. Sinkings by month. Allied production estimates. Convoy traffic density. Escort expansion. When the report is complete, its conclusion requires no interpretation. The Atlantic campaign has reached its limit. Destruction can continue indefinitely, without changing the outcome. At sea, the human cost remains real. Merchant sailors still face freezing water and burning decks. Submarine crews still endure crushing pressure and constant danger. But strategy no longer moves with them. It has shifted elsewhere, to shipyards, factories, and production lines operating beyond the horizon. One evening, as a U-boat returns to port after a long patrol, crew members stand silently on deck watching cranes unload supplies from nearby docks. Cargo moves efficiently. Ships arrive and depart without interruption. Movement. Continuity. Replacement. The same pattern they have witnessed across the ocean now surrounds them at home. The realization does not arrive as a single dramatic moment. It settles gradually, like cold air filling a sealed room. They are not fighting to reduce Allied strength. They are fighting within a system designed to absorb their blows. And systems designed to absorb loss do not collapse from loss alone. Weeks later, a veteran submarine officer studies Atlantic shipping charts spanning the entire war. Early years show wide gaps after successful campaigns. Later charts show increasing density, uninterrupted flow. He traces the lines with a finger. There is no break, no collapse, no point where destruction overtook creation. He closes the folder quietly. The submarine war did not fail in battle. It failed in arithmetic. But even arithmetic does not capture the full weight of the realization. Because what has truly emerged is not merely industrial superiority. It is a new kind of warfare. A war where endurance defeats precision. Where replacement defeats destruction. Where time itself becomes a weapon. And once time joins one side of a conflict, the outcome no longer depends on the battlefield. Only on how long the other side continues to fight. May 7th, 1945. 9:10 a.m. North Atlantic shipping lane. The ocean looks ordinary. Gray waves. Low clouds. A convoy moves steadily eastward, its formation precise and unhurried. Cargo ships ride heavy with supplies destined for a continent already shifting toward peace. No explosions break the horizon. No torpedoes ripple beneath the surface. The Atlantic, once a graveyard of steel and fire, has become a highway. Escort destroyers maintain formation, their vigilance routine rather than desperate. Aircraft patrol overhead in wide arcs, engines steady against the wind. The system operates smoothly, almost quietly. It did not happen suddenly. It happened gradually, then completely. Across the ocean, shipyards that once raced against catastrophe now operate with confident rhythm. Construction continues not out of desperation, but momentum. The process perfected under wartime pressure has reshaped expectation itself. Loss is no longer feared. It is planned for. And because it is planned for, it no longer decides outcomes. In former submarine bases along the European coast, vessels sit silent at their moorings. Steel hulls that once hunted the Atlantic now reflect calm water beneath them. Crews move without urgency. Orders are different now. Patrols have ended. The ocean that once determined survival has lost its authority. Months earlier, the strategic reality had already become unavoidable inside German naval command. The submarine fleet had not been defeated solely by weapons, tactics, or courage. It had been outpaced, outbuilt, outlasted. For Admiral Karl Dönitz, the realization carried a stark clarity. The campaign designed to starve an enemy had confronted an industrial system that converted loss into continuity. Every torpedo strike had been real. Every sinking had been devastating. Every patrol had demanded skill and sacrifice. But none of it could overcome a nation that replaced destruction faster than destruction could accumulate. War had revealed its deeper truth. Victory does not always belong to the force that strikes hardest. Sometimes, it belongs to the force that endures longest. And endurance, in this conflict, was built not only on courage, but on production lines stretching across an entire continent. In the United States, Liberty ships continue to slide into water even as the war nears its end. Workers who once raced against catastrophe now witness something different. Proof that industry itself can shape the fate of oceans. Steel plates, welding torches, assembly lines. Tools rarely described as weapons, yet decisive all the same. The Battle of the Atlantic had been fought across storms, darkness, and thousands of miles of open water. But its outcome was determined far from the waves, in shipyards where time was compressed, processes refined, and loss rendered temporary. For the men who served beneath the Atlantic's surface, the war never lost its intensity. Every patrol remained dangerous. Every attack remained real. Yet history would record something larger than individual victories. It would record the moment when destruction encountered a system designed to absorb it, and could not prevail. The ocean had not changed. The scale of human production had. And in that shift, the meaning of naval power itself was transformed. The Atlantic had once been a barrier capable of deciding nations' survival. By 1945, it had become a passage, busy, protected, unstoppable. The submarines that once haunted its depths had forced a question that defined the modern age. Can any weapon overcome a society organized to outproduce loss? In the waters of the North Atlantic, the answer emerged not in a single battle, but in the steady, relentless launch of ship after ship after ship.